We are constantly looking outward. We send rovers to Mars and draft blueprints for colonies. We even look hundreds of millions of miles away to Jupiter's moon Europa, searching for life beneath its ice. Yet right next door sits our closest planetary neighbor, a world that, despite its proximity, no space agency has attempted to land on in over 40 years. Curious. Look at the eastern sky just before dawn, and you'll see it. Venus. It appears as the brightest point of light in the night sky, aside from our moon. For centuries, humans looked up at this glowing, serene orb and called it the morning star. This graphic shows why early scientists were so obsessed. If you line up the numbers, Earth and Venus are practically duplicates. Venus possesses 95% of Earth's volume. Its mass is almost identical, and it orbits closer to us than any other planet. Because of those exact mathematical matches, scientists in the mid-20th century made a logical assumption. They looked at the thick, impenetrable layer of clouds wrapping the planet and imagined a lush, tropical, water-rich environment hiding underneath, an Earth-like paradise waiting to be discovered. This vision made Venus the ultimate prize of the early space race. Finding life on another planet right next door was the highest possible stake for the space agencies of the Cold War. But humanity was about to get a violent reality check. In 1961, the Soviet Union and the United States were fighting for ideological dominance, and every space launch was a global headline. Determined to claim the twin planet first, the Soviets built 2 probes and launched the Venera 1 mission, but they underestimated the extreme hostility of the inner solar system. When the spacecraft was still roughly 100,000 kilometers away from its destination, the raw heat of the sun overwhelmed its external sensors. The internal timers failed. The probe lost its orientation and could no longer point its antennas back to Earth. On February 17th, it sent its last signal before going completely silent and drifting blindly into deep space. The Soviets hadn't even reached the planet's atmosphere. Venera 1 proved that simply traveling toward the sun was lethal enough to kill a mission before it ever arrived. NASA was also racing toward the planet. In 1962, the American probe Mariner 2 managed to fly within 35,000 kilometers of Venus. For 42 minutes, its instruments scanned the thick atmosphere, beaming back the first actual data from our neighbor. The readings were baffling, but astronomer Carl Sagan used them to publish a terrifying new hypothesis that challenged the paradise theory. This diagram illustrates what Sagan realized. Those thick clouds aren't water vapor. They are a dense layer of carbon dioxide. This creates a runaway greenhouse effect. The atmosphere lets solar radiation in, but completely traps that heat, baking the planet into a 237 degrees Celsius furnace. Driven by intense political pressure, the Soviet Union ignored the warning and pushed forward. They spent years building more advanced hardware. They launched Venera 2, which fried from solar heat right before arrival. Then they launched Venera 3, which successfully entered the atmosphere, only to be immediately crushed and burned. Standard space exploration tactics were useless here. The Soviets were trying to explore a planet that seemed to actively defend itself against their technology. To fight back, Soviet engineers built Venera 4. They designed the main landing capsule as a heavily armored metal sphere, reinforced to survive 400 degrees Celsius and an atmospheric pressure 25 times heavier than the air around us on Earth. As the chart shows, the drop started perfectly. At 52 kilometers, temperature and pressure were in a comfortable green zone. But plummeting to 26 kilometers, the environment became violent. Temperature spiked to 262 degrees and pressure surged to 22 atmospheres, breaking the sphere. The transmission abruptly stopped. Long before touching the ground, the immense weight of the sky crushed the metal capsule, reducing it to wreckage in midair. When scientists combined the final data from that imploded capsule with readings from NASA's Mariner 5 flyby, they uncovered the true scale of the horror. The actual pressure down on the planet's surface wasn't 25 atmospheres, it was 90. Imagine diving 1 entire kilometer to the bottom of the ocean. The staggering weight of all that water pushing against every inch of your body is what you would feel standing on the dry surface of Venus, surrounded by heat that melts lead and clouds of toxic sulfuric acid. To survive Venus, the Soviets realized they couldn't build a traditional spacecraft. They had to build a deep-sea submarine. They forged Venera 7. This landing capsule was a solid titanium vault weighing 490 kilograms. They stripped down the internal instruments to thicken the hull, over-engineering it to withstand 180 atmospheres of pressure and 540 degrees of heat. But Venus fought back again. 10 kilometers above the ground, the parachute tore. The heavy titanium egg entered a free fall, slamming into the alien ground at 60 kilometers per hour and rolling over onto its side. Despite the crash, the capsule transmitted a weak signal for 23 minutes. It confirmed what years of radar and telescopic observations could only guess. The surface was entirely solid, dry rock. There were no hidden oceans. That battered, sideways titanium egg achieved something that had never been done before. It became the very first human-made object in history to successfully transmit data from the surface of another planet. The Soviets refined the design for Venera 8, placing the internal sensors inside a refrigeration unit packed with blocks of lithium nitrate. They were fighting the external heat from the inside out. The strategy worked. Venera 8 operated for a full 50 minutes. It analyzed the volcanic basalt rock and proved that despite thick acid clouds overhead, sunlight does actually reach the planet's surface. We don't avoid Venus today just because it's hard. We avoid it because the Soviets sacrificed fleets of machines to prove exactly what it is. Beneath the beauty of the morning star lies a runaway greenhouse nightmare, a monument to human engineering that refused to be defeated by the planet that destroys everything. Elon Musk wants to colonize Mars. NASA is sending rovers to scout distant craters. Space agencies obsess over the red planet, yet have completely ignored the one right next door, a planet virtually identical to Earth in size, mass, and distance. Because of those strict physical similarities, scientists in the 1960s considered Venus our twin sister. They theorized it might even harbor liquid water or life beneath its thick, mysterious clouds. The Soviet Union, riding high on their early space race victories, made a massive bet. They decided they would secure their dominance by being the first to touch the surface of this twin world. They launched their first probes, but as the machines approached the planet, their sensors fried, their timers stopped. Deep space swallowed them whole, leaving Soviet control rooms in total silence before the machines ever reached the atmosphere. The telemetric data eventually proved that something violent was happening. The machines were encountering a planetary defense system unlike anything in our solar system. Venus was actively hostile. Subsequent missions revealed exactly how violent it was. When the Venera 4 probe descended into the clouds, it functioned perfectly until it hit 26 kilometers above the surface. At that exact altitude, the air pressure suddenly spiked to 22 times that of Earth, and the machine simply crumpled like a tin can mid-air. An American astronomer named Carl Sagan had published a paper arguing that the thick clouds covering Venus weren't hiding oceans. They were trapped greenhouse gases baking the planet. NASA's Mariner 2 flyby confirmed Sagan's math. The data revealed an impenetrable 80-kilometer deep blanket of carbon dioxide and sulfuric acid. This comparison shows the sheer scale of the hostility. The atmospheric pressure at ground level was 90 times higher than Earth's. Standing on Venus would feel like standing a full kilometer underwater, with the crushing weight of the deep ocean pressing down on your chest. The surface temperature hovered around 480 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead. Aerospace engineering principles were useless here. If the Soviets wanted to reach the ground intact, they had to stop building spacecraft and start building flying deep-sea submarines. That is exactly what they did. The Venera 7 was a 490-kilogram monstrosity, fortified with technology pulled directly from naval architecture. They cast an egg-shaped titanium shell to distribute weight evenly. To fight heat, a sensor chilled the interior to -8 degrees. Inside, lithium nitrate acted as a chemical refrigerator, absorbing heat and keeping electronics cold. Through brutal trial and error, the Soviets had engineered heavily armored flying refrigerators. Their primary goal was to build a vault that could delay its own destruction long enough to send a signal home, but they still had to landing it safely. Venus presented a paradox. The atmosphere is so thick it behaves almost like a liquid. A standard parachute creates immense friction, generating fatal amounts of extra heat, but fall too fast and the probe shatters on impact. Their solution was to jettison the parachute early and rely on a flat metallic rim surrounding the capsule. This rim acted as a giant air brake, using the sheer density of the Venusian air to slow the descent to 25 kilometers per hour. As it fell, the machine was battered by highly acidic winds screaming past at over 360 kilometers per hour. That is significantly faster than the most destructive Category 5 hurricanes on Earth. By throwing out the standard rules of aerodynamics, they punched through the chaotic storms and forced a working machine onto the surface. Against astronomical odds, the later Venera landers stretched down. Their microphones kicked on, transmitting the roar of an alien storm back to Earth. For the first time in history, humans listened to the violent winds of another world. Then the lens caps popped off, and the image data flowed in. Instead of oceans or alien biology, the cameras revealed a bleak wasteland of cracked volcanic basalt rock stretching to the horizon. The triumph was brief. The lithium nitrate soaked up the heat. The titanium held back the pressure. Yet physics always wins. Even their most advanced probe, Venera 13, held out for exactly 127 minutes before the extreme conditions finally cracked the armor and melted the circuits into slag. 40 years later, space agencies leave Venus alone. We aim our rockets at Mars because Mars is survivable. Venus is an active incinerator, and the melted Soviet landers remain the only monuments to an extreme engineering challenge that pushed human ingenuity to its absolute limit. In 1975, A human-made machine transmitted this black and white panoramic photograph across 30 million kilometers of space. It is our first clear view of the surface of Venus. To capture that single image, the camera had to survive an environment that melts lead. The atmospheric pressure on the surface is 90 times greater than on Earth. A heavy steel submarine dropped into these conditions would violently implode. Early astronomers expected something else entirely. Because Venus shares Earth's size and gravity, they assumed our planetary twin sister might harbor oceans, forests, and potentially even life. The reality of the descent was far more direct. Reaching the surface required a probe to fall through 12-millimeter thick clouds of pure sulfuric acid. Below the acid clouds, the turbulence is severe. Winds roar at 360 kilometers per hour, exceeding the destructive force of Earth's violent Category 5 tornadoes. Near the surface, the physics shift. The carbon dioxide atmosphere becomes so dense it behaves like an ocean. Parachutes become redundant. A metal lander simply sinks through the air like a stone through water. Securing a photograph in these conditions was a battle against the most violently hostile physics in the inner solar system. When Venera 9 reached the surface, the touchdown was brutal. The shock absorbers on the landing gear crumpled, leaving the spacecraft tilted at a 20-degree angle. The heat caused immediate mechanical failures. One camera's lens cap melted shut. With only one operational lens remaining, the probe had 30 minutes to capture the scene before its electronics failed. The photograph exposed a specific geological reality. Instead of sand, the ground was covered in sharp basalt rocks, proving Venus was once an active volcanic world. This surface data supported a theory famously championed by Carl Sagan. Venus was the victim of a runaway greenhouse effect. This diagram shows the mechanism at work. The dense atmosphere traps heat rays attempting to reflect off the surface, locking the planet into a perpetual state of 480 degrees Celsius. Venera 9 provided the first physical proof that an Earth-sized planet could undergo total atmospheric collapse. Soviet engineers reinforced the next generation of probes. In 1981, Venera 13 launched to capture color and sound. This capsule utilized a titanium shell and lithium nitrate refrigeration to manage the heat, buying instruments a few more minutes. The results were unprecedented. Venera 13 sent back color images, showing a jagged landscape illuminated by an eerie orange and yellow light. The mission also recorded the first audio from another planet. Using a specialized microphone, the probe captured the actual sound of the Venusian atmosphere. The recording reveals the crashing roar of high-density winds dragging against the metal shell of the lander. These minutes of color and sound turned a theoretical coordinate in a telescope into a tangible landscape with its own geography and weather. The data was so alien that it led to unusual conclusions. After reviewing the footage, one Soviet scientist claimed he saw a scorpion-like creature moving among the rocks. The claim was eventually debunked as an optical illusion. The creature was actually the probe's own lens cap, which had been discarded onto the surface during the landing sequence. In the blistering 480-degree heat, the metallic cap began to melt and bubble. As its shape distorted, it mimicked the silhouette of a living organism. While the exterior hardware melted, the internal sensors held on. Venera 13 transmitted for 127 minutes, the longest survival time in the history of the program. Following missions 15 and 16, the Venera program ended, a casualty of the political and economic collapse of the Soviet Union. The data definitively proved Venus is a biological dead end. Faced with a world that destroys titanium in hours, space agencies globally shifted their search for life toward the more hospitable deserts of Mars. These scratchy images and wind-battered recordings remain the only forensic archive we have of the surface, the final record of humanity's visit to our hellish twin sister.